The grand hall sparkled with lights that changed color every few seconds. Jake Harrison adjusted his formal uniform for the 10th time that evening. He still couldn't believe he was here, on Zatharia Prime, at the most important diplomatic event of the year. "Stop fidgeting," Lisa Bennett whispered beside him. She had been his aide for only 3 months, but she already knew all his nervous habits. "You look fine." Jake nodded and took a deep breath. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with something metallic. All around them, aliens of different species mingled and talked. Most kept their distance from the Zatharians, the hosts of this gathering. The Zatharians were tall, with purple skin that seemed to shimmer. Their bodies naturally produced toxins so powerful that a single touch could kill most other beings. That's why they wore special suits that covered them completely when dealing with other species. "Remember the briefing," Lisa said quietly. "Don't eat or drink anything they offer. We have our own food prepared in the kitchen." I know, Jake replied. He had heard this warning at least 50 times since landing on the planet. High Chancellor Zalthor entered the room and everyone fell silent. He was the tallest Zatharian Jake had ever seen, wearing ceremonial robes that sparkled like stars. The Chancellor moved through the crowd with grace, greeting each ambassador personally. When he reached Jake and Lisa, the Chancellor bowed slightly. "Ambassador Harrison, welcome to Zatharia Prime. We are honored by your presence." Jake returned the bow. "The honor is mine, High Chancellor. Earth sends its warmest greetings. Please enjoy the festivities," Zalthor said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "We have prepared special accommodations for all our guests." As the Chancellor moved on, servers began bringing out food and drinks. Jake noticed how carefully they handled everything. Each plate and glass was marked with symbols showing which species could safely consume its contents. "The blue marks mean human safe," Lisa reminded him. She pointed to a nearby table. "Our food is over there." Jake walked to the designated area, but he couldn't help watching the Zatharians. They ate and drank freely from dishes that would instantly kill anyone else. It fascinated him how nature could create such deadly beauty. The evening progressed smoothly. Jake met ambassadors from planets he had only read about in reports. He discussed trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and the possibility of student programs between worlds. After 2 hours, High Chancellor Zalthor called for attention. "Honored guests, it is time for our traditional ceremony of friendship." Servers appeared with ornate goblets on silver trays. Each goblet contained a different liquid, matched to the biology of each species. Jake accepted his goblet, which held what looked like red wine. He sniffed it carefully. It smelled normal enough. Kulrain, Chancellor raised his own goblet, filled with a glowing purple liquid, to peace among the stars and to new friendships that will last for generations. Everyone raised their drinks. Jake was about to take a sip when a server bumped into him from behind. His goblet flew from his hand, spilling its contents on the floor. "I'm so sorry," the server exclaimed, looking panicked. Before Jake could respond, High Chancellor Zalthor appeared beside him. "Please, Ambassador Harrison, take mine. It would shame me greatly if you could not participate in our ceremony." Jake looked at the glowing purple liquid in the Chancellor's goblet. Lisa grabbed his arm, her face pale. "Jake, no. That's Zavixian nectar. It's their most sacred drink, but it's also the deadliest poison in the known galaxy." The room had gone quiet. Everyone watched to see what the human ambassador would do. Jake understood the situation immediately. Refusing the Chancellor's offer would be a terrible insult, possibly damaging Earth's relationship with Zatharia forever. He looked at Lisa, then at the Chancellor, then at the goblet of glowing death in his hand. Jake stared at the purple liquid swirling in the goblet. It seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The entire room held its breath, waiting to see what he would do. "Jake, please," Lisa whispered urgently. "Don't do this. We can explain to the Chancellor. He'll understand." But Jake knew better. He had studied Zatharian culture for months before this assignment. Refusing a ceremonial drink offered by the High Chancellor himself would be seen as the ultimate rejection of friendship. It could destroy everything Earth had worked for in the past 5 years. "Hi, Chancellor," Jake said, his voice steady. "I am deeply honored by your generous offer." Lisa's grip on his arm tightened. "Jake, that poison can dissolve organic matter in seconds. You'll die before the goblet hits the floor." Jake gently removed her hand from his arm. He looked into her worried eyes and gave her a small smile. "Sometimes, diplomacy requires sacrifice." High Chancellor Zalthor watched this exchange with interest. "Ambassador Harrison, I must inform you that this nectar is quite potent for non-Zetharians. Perhaps we could find an alternative." "No," Jake interrupted, surprising everyone, including himself. "You've offered me the highest honor of your people. To refuse would shame us both." The Chancellor's eyes widened slightly. Few aliens understood Zetharian customs so well. "You are correct, Ambassador, but I cannot in good conscience let you—" "With respect, High Chancellor, the choice is mine." Jake raised the goblet. "To peace among the stars." Before anyone could stop him, Jake brought the goblet to his lips and drank. The liquid burned like fire as it went down his throat. He felt it spreading through his body like molten lava. Lisa screamed. Several ambassadors gasped. The Zetharian guards moved forward, ready to remove what they assumed would soon be a dissolving corpse. Jake finished the entire goblet and lowered it slowly. He waited for the end to come. The burning sensation spread through his chest, down to his stomach, out to his fingers and toes. But he didn't dissolve. He didn't collapse. He didn't even feel sick. Instead, the burning sensation began to fade, replaced by a warm, tingling feeling. It reminded Jake of the time he'd tried his grandfather's homemade moonshine. The room remained deathly silent. Every eye was fixed on Jake, waiting for him to die. But as seconds turned into a minute, and then 2 minutes, confusion replaced expectation. Jake cleared his throat. "That was interesting. Quite spicy. Reminds me of cinnamon whiskey we have back home." High Chancellor Zalthor's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. This is impossible. No non-Zetharian has ever survived Civixian nectar, not even for a few seconds." "Well," Jake said, feeling surprisingly good, "I guess there's a first time for everything." He noticed everyone still staring at him. "What? Do I have something on my face?" Lisa touched his arm hesitantly, as if expecting him to crumble to dust. "Jake? You're alive?" "Seems that way," he replied cheerfully. "Actually, I feel pretty good. That drink has quite a kick to it." The Chancellor signaled to his guards. "Bring the medical team immediately. We must understand what has happened here." Within moments, Zetharian doctors in full protective gear surrounded Jake. They scanned him with devices that beeped and flashed. They took readings and measurements, all while muttering to each other in their musical language. "Ambassador Harrison," the lead doctor said finally, "by all our science, you should be dead. Civixian nectar contains 17 different compounds, each capable of destroying organic matter at the molecular level." Jake shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you. I feel fine. Maybe a little warm, like I've had a strong drink, but otherwise, normal." The Chancellor approached Jake with new respect in his eyes. "Ambassador Harrison, you have just done something no being in recorded history has ever achieved. You have survived our most sacred and deadly tradition." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Jake noticed that the other ambassadors were looking at him differently now, some with fear, others with awe, and a few with calculation in their eyes. "I believe," the Chancellor continued, "that this moment will change everything between our peoples." The medical team continued their frantic examinations, but Jake was getting tired of being poked and prodded. He felt perfectly fine, maybe even better than before. The warm sensation from the drink had settled into a pleasant buzz. "Could I have another glass?" Jake asked, causing everyone to freeze. "I mean, if it's not too much trouble, it really was quite good." The Chancellor stared at him as if he had grown a second head. "Ambassador, you wish to drink more of our deadliest poison?" "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad," Jake admitted. "But honestly, it tasted better than most Earth wines. I've tried. Lisa looked ready to faint. Jake, please stop talking about drinking more poison. You got lucky once. Don't push it. A Zetharian doctor approached the Chancellor and spoke in hushed tones. Jake caught a few words that his translator converted. Impossible. Biochemistry and further testing. The Chancellor nodded and turned back to Jake. Ambassador Harrison, we must take you to our medical facility immediately. We need to understand how you survived. Do I have a choice? Jake asked. Not really, the Chancellor admitted. This is unprecedented. For the safety of all species, we must know what happened. Jake sighed. Fine, but can I at least finish the ceremony first? It seems rude to leave in the middle of it. The room fell silent again. The other ambassadors looked at Jake with a mixture of admiration and concern. Here was a human who had just survived certain death and was worried about being rude. You wish to continue? The Chancellor asked. Of course. We were making a toast to peace, weren't we? Jake looked around the room. Unless everyone's too shocked to continue, slowly, the other ambassadors raised their goblets again. The Chancellor signaled for a servant to bring him another drink, this time the blue-marked human-safe version. To peace among the stars, the Chancellor repeated, his voice filled with wonder. To peace, everyone echoed. After the toast, Jake allowed himself to be led away by the medical team. Lisa followed close behind, still looking worried. They entered a gleaming white facility attached to the Grand Hall. Dr. Vexlar, the chief medical officer, began running tests immediately. Ambassador, I need to ask you some questions. Have you ever been exposed to unusual chemicals on Earth? Define. Unusual, Jake said. I grew up in New Jersey. We had all sorts of chemical plants near my hometown. Have you undergone any genetic modifications? Nope. I'm all natural. Any unusual dietary habits? Jake thought for a moment. I do eat a lot of spicy food. My friends say I have a cast iron stomach. The tests continued for hours. They took blood samples, tissue samples, and scanned every part of Jake's body. Through it all, he remained remarkably calm and cooperative. Finally, Dr. Vexlar called the Chancellor into the lab. We've found something extraordinary, he announced. The human liver produces enzymes we've never seen before. These enzymes break down our toxins into harmless compounds. Are you saying humans are immune to our poisons? The Chancellor asked. Not just immune, Dr. Vexlar explained. Their bodies process our deadliest toxins like they process alcohol. The ambassador here is essentially experiencing what humans call being drunk. Jake laughed. So that's why I feel so good. I thought it was just adrenaline. The Chancellor sat down heavily in a nearby chair. This changes everything. Our entire defense system, our place in galactic politics, is based on our toxic nature. Hey, don't look so glum, Jake said. This could be the beginning of something amazing. Think about it. Humans can work directly with Zetharians without fear. We can be bridges between your people and others. Lisa, who had been quiet during the tests, finally spoke up. Jake's right. This doesn't make you weaker. It makes our alliance stronger. The Chancellor looked at them both, then slowly began to smile. You humans continue to surprise us. First, you survive our deadliest poison. Now you offer friendship when you could demand advantage. That's what humans do, Jake said with a grin. We make friends in the strangest ways possible. News of Jake's survival spread through the galaxy faster than light. Within hours, every major news network was broadcasting the story of the human who drank death and lived. In the medical facility, Dr. Vexlar continued his research with growing excitement. Ambassador Harrison, we need to run more tests. Your blood samples are showing remarkable properties. Jake stretched out on the examination table, feeling surprisingly relaxed. Doc, I've been here for 6 hours. Can't we take a break? This is the scientific discovery of the millennium, Dr. Vexlar replied. Sleep can wait. Lisa brought Jake some water. The Earth Embassy is going crazy. They want to know if you're really okay. Tell them I'm fine, Jake said. Better than fine, actually. I haven't felt this good in years. The Chancellor entered the lab with several high-ranking officials. Ambassador Harrison, we have a situation developing. Other species are demanding to know if all humans share your immunity. Jake sat up. I honestly don't know. Maybe we should test it? No, Lisa shouted. We are not testing deadly poison on more humans. Dr. Vexlar cleared his throat. Actually, we've been analyzing the ambassador's genetic markers. It appears this immunity is common to all humans, not unique to him. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Furthermore, the doctor continued, we've discovered something else. The enzymes in human livers don't just neutralize our toxins. They convert them into compounds that boost human cellular function. You mean the poison makes us stronger? Jake asked. In simple terms, yes. Your body is using our deadliest toxin as a performance enhancer. The Chancellor's advisors began whispering urgently among themselves. Jake could see the fear in their eyes. For thousands of years, the Zetharians had relied on their toxic nature for protection. Now they faced a species that not only survived their poisons, but thrived on them. High Chancellor, one advisor said, we must restrict human access to our world immediately. They could use this advantage against us. Jake stood up quickly. Wait a minute. Nobody's using anything against anyone. We came here for peace, remember? The Chancellor raised his hand for silence. The human speaks truth. Ambassador Harrison could have kept this discovery secret. Instead, he allowed us to study him openly. But, sir, another advisor protested, the balance of power will shift, yes. The Chancellor interrupted. But perhaps it's time for change. We have lived in isolation for too long, feared by all. Maybe we need friends more than we need fear. Dr. Vexlar stepped forward. There's more. If we can synthesize human liver enzymes, we might create antidotes for other species. Our toxins could become cures instead of weapons. Jake smiled. Now, that's the kind of thinking I like. Turning problems into solutions. The Chancellor nodded slowly. Ambassador Harrison, I have a proposal. Would Earth be willing to establish a joint research facility here on Zetheria? I can't speak for Earth officially, Jake said, but I think they'd jump at the chance. Lisa was already typing on her communication device. I'm sending a priority message to Earth now. They'll want to send scientists immediately. Over the next few hours, plans began forming. The Zetharians offered their best research facilities. Earth promised to send top biochemists and medical researchers. Other species expressed interest in joining the project. As dawn approached, Jake finally convinced Dr. Vexlar to let him rest. Walking back to his quarters with Lisa, he felt the weight of what had happened. You know, Lisa said, when you drank that poison, I thought I was watching you commit suicide for diplomacy. Honestly, so did I, Jake admitted. But sometimes you have to take crazy risks for peace. This is going to change everything, Lisa said. Human-Zetharian relations, galactic medicine, maybe even how species interact with each other. Jake nodded. All because someone spilled a drink and I was too polite to say no to the replacement. They both laughed, the sound echoing through the quiet corridors of the alien city. 3 days later, Earth's response arrived in the form of Ambassador Carl Roberts, a silver-haired diplomat known for handling delicate situations. He brought with him a team of scientists eager to study the phenomenon. Jake met them at the spaceport, still feeling perfectly healthy despite drinking more Zavixian nectar during additional tests. The Zetharians had insisted on confirming the results multiple times. Jake Harrison, Carl said, shaking his hand firmly. You've caused quite a stir back home. The president wants to give you a medal. For drinking poison? Jake laughed. That's a first. Carl's expression turned serious. For changing the course of human history. Do you realize what this means? Every species in the galaxy feared the Zetharians. Now we're their equals. We were always equals, Jake replied. They just didn't know it yet. The scientific team wasted no time setting up their equipment. Dr. Amy Chen, the lead biologist, was particularly excited. The samples they sent us were incredible, she told Jake. Human liver enzymes break down their toxins into compounds that enhance our immune system, increase energy, and even slow aging. You mean their poison is actually good for us? Lisa asked, incredulous. In controlled doses, yes, Amy replied. We need to study this further, but the implications are staggering. Meanwhile, the galactic community reacted with shock and fear. Emergency sessions were called in the Galactic Council. Some species demanded that humans be classified as a threat. Others saw opportunity in the new dynamic. The Krellian ambassador approached Jake privately. My people suffer from a wasting disease. We've tried everything. If human biology can process Zetharian toxins, perhaps you can help us? Jake nodded. That's exactly what we're hoping to do. Create medicines, not weapons. High Chancellor Zalthor called for a special assembly. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered in the grand hall where it all began. Jake stood beside the Chancellor, facing the crowd. Fellow beings of the galaxy, the Chancellor began, we have lived in fear of each other for too long. The humans have shown us another way. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some ambassadors looked skeptical, others hopeful. We propose a new alliance, the Chancellor continued. The Zetharian Human Medical Research Initiative. Together, we will turn our poisons into cures. Ambassador Roberts stepped forward. Earth fully supports this initiative. We offer our resources, our scientists, and our commitment to helping all species. The Krellian ambassador stood. The Krellian Empire wishes to join this alliance. We offer our advanced computational systems for research. One by one, other species expressed interest. Even those initially fearful began to see the potential benefits. By the end of the meeting, 12 worlds had agreed to participate. Over. The next weeks, the research facility grew rapidly. Scientists from different species worked side by side, sharing knowledge and technology. Jake found himself at the center of it all, the living proof of what was possible. Dr. Vexelar and Amy Chen made breakthrough after breakthrough. They discovered that modified Zetharian toxins could cure diseases thought incurable. They developed treatments for radiation sickness, aging disorders, and even some forms of cancer. It's like we've unlocked a universal medicine cabinet, Amy explained to Jake. These compounds, when properly processed, can target almost any biological problem. The Zetharians, once feared and isolated, became the most sought-after allies in the galaxy. Their world transformed from a forbidden planet to a center of medical innovation. Jake watched the changes with satisfaction. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges flourished. Species that had never interacted before now worked together in the labs. You know what the funny part is? Jake told Lisa one evening. I never even liked spicy food that much before. Now I can't get enough of it. Lisa shook her head. You turned a diplomatic disaster into the greatest alliance in galactic history, and you're thinking about food? Hey, a guy's gotta eat, Jake grinned. Besides, have you tried the Zetharian cuisine? Once you get past the whole deadly poison thing, it's actually delicious. 6 months into the research project, Amy Chen made a discovery that stunned everyone. She burst into Jake's office, her eyes wide with excitement. Jake, you need to see this, she said, pulling him toward the lab. We've been analyzing human, evolutionary history, trying to understand why we developed this immunity. In the lab, holographic displays showed complex molecular structures. Dr. Vexelar was already there, studying the data with intense focus. Look at this, Amy pointed to a series of genetic markers. Humans evolved on a planet with thousands of toxic plants, venomous animals, and dangerous microorganisms. Our ancestors ate things that would kill most aliens instantly. Jake leaned closer. So we've been building immunity for millions of years? Not just immunity, Dr. Vexelar added. Your species developed the most sophisticated detoxification system in the known galaxy. Your liver is a biological miracle. Amy nodded enthusiastically. Remember how your ancestors used to eat fermented foods, moldy cheeses, and even deliberately poisonous fish? Each generation built upon the last, creating stronger and stronger defenses. Are you saying humans are universal antidotes? Jake asked. In a way, yes, Amy replied. Our blood plasma, when properly processed, can neutralize toxins from hundreds of different species. The implications were staggering. Within weeks, they developed the first universal antitoxin. The Krellians were the first to benefit. Their wasting disease, caused by their own planet's toxic atmosphere, was cured using modified human enzymes. News spread quickly. Species after species came forward with medical challenges. The Aquari, who couldn't leave their water world due to sensitivity to air, could now breathe freely using human-based treatments. The Thermians, dying from radiation exposure, found their salvation in human cellular repair mechanisms. Jake became the face of this medical revolution. They called him the first drinker or the bridge builder. Children across the galaxy learned about the human who drank poison and lived. One day, High Chancellor Zalthor invited Jake to a private meeting. They sat in the Chancellor's garden, surrounded by plants that would kill most visitors instantly. "Ambassador Harrison," the Chancellor began, "I must confess something. When you drank our nectar, I was certain you would die. I was prepared to apologize to Earth for the loss of their diplomat." Jake smiled. "To be honest, so was I." "But you didn't hesitate," the Chancellor continued. "Why?" Jake thought for a moment. "On Earth we have a saying, no risk, no reward. Sometimes you have to trust that things will work out." The Chancellor nodded slowly. "Your action has done more for peace than 1,000 treaties. My people were prisoners of our own biology. We thought our toxicity made us powerful, but it only made us lonely." "And now?" Jake asked. "Now we have friends. Real friends who can touch us without dying, eat with us without fear, work beside us without protective suits." The Chancellor's voice carried emotion Jake had never heard before. "You gave us that gift." As they talked, a young Zetharian child ran through the garden, followed by a human girl. They were playing tag, laughing together. Such a scene would have been impossible just months ago. "Look at them," the Chancellor said softly. "The next generation won't know fear between our species. They'll grow up as friends." Jake watched the children play. That's the real victory, isn't it? Not the medical breakthroughs or the political alliances, but this. Kids just being kids together. The research initiative expanded beyond anyone's imagination. Humans and Zetharians developed treatments for diseases across the galaxy. They created synthetic versions of human enzymes, allowing mass production of antitoxins. More importantly, the success of the initiative inspired other species to share their biological advantages. The crystallines offered their radiation resistance. The shadeweavers shared their regenerative abilities. The galaxy entered a new age of medical cooperation. "You know what's funny?" Jake told Lisa one evening as they reviewed progress reports. "I came here as a diplomat to negotiate trade agreements. Instead, I became a guinea pig for alien poison." Lisa laughed. "Best career change ever, right?" "Definitely," Jake agreed. "Though I still can't believe it all started with a spilled drink." A year after Jake's historic drink, Zetharia Prime looked completely different. Humans walked freely through streets once deadly to outsiders. Markets sold Zetharian goods to species who could never touch them before. The research facility had grown into a small city. Jake stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling trade district. Human merchants bargained with Zetharian vendors while children of both species played in the nearby park. No one wore protective suits anymore. Hard to believe, isn't it? Lisa joined him carrying 2 cups of Zavixian tea, a milder version of the famous nectar. "Remember when this place was the most dangerous planet in the galaxy?" Jake accepted the tea with a smile. "Now it's the safest." Funny how things change. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call. Ambassador Roberts appeared on Jake's communicator, looking excited. "Jake, we've just signed the biggest trade agreement in galactic history. The Zetharians are opening their mineral reserves to human companies. In exchange, we're providing medical technology to their colonies." "That's fantastic news," Jake replied. "There's more," Roberts continued. "The Galactic Council wants to establish a permanent human Zetharian peacekeeping force. They're calling it the Poison Guard." Jake laughed at the name. "Let me guess. Humans and Zetharians working together to handle toxic environments?" "Exactly. Disaster response, hazardous material cleanup, medical emergencies in hostile conditions. No other species can do what we can together. After the Itvvv call, Jake and Lisa visited the memorial garden created to commemorate the alliance. At its center stood a statue depicting the moment Jake drank the nectar, with Chancellor Zalthor beside him. Ambassador Harrison, a young Zetharian, approached them. "I'm studying to be a diplomat because of you. Could I ask you something?" "Of course," Jake said. "Were you scared when you drank the poison?" Jake considered the question carefully. "Terrified. But sometimes the scariest choices lead to the best outcomes." The student nodded thoughtfully and left. Lisa watched him go. "You've become a legend, you know. They teach about you in schools across the galaxy." "It feels strange," Jake admitted. "I just did what seemed right at the time." Later that day, they attended the graduation ceremony for the first class of human Zetharian medical specialists. Young doctors from both species received their certifications, ready to spread their knowledge across the galaxy. Dr. Vexelar gave the keynote speech. "1 year ago, we thought our differences made us enemies. Today, those same differences make us stronger together. These graduates represent the future, a future where diversity becomes our greatest strength." The crowd erupted in applause. Jake noticed humans and Zetharians hugging, shaking hands, celebrating together. Such physical contact would have been unthinkable before. After the ceremony, Chancellor Zalthor approached Jake. "Ambassador, I have news. The Council of Elders has made a decision. We wish to offer you honorary Zetharian citizenship." Jake was speechless. This was the highest honor the Zetharians could bestow on an outsider. "You've earned it," the Chancellor continued. "You trusted us when no one else would. You saw friends where others saw monsters." "I'm deeply honored," Jake managed to say. "But I need to ask, does this mean I have to drink more poison?" The Chancellor laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Only if you want to. Though I hear you've developed quite a taste for it." The citizenship ceremony took place at sunset. Jake stood before the Council of Elders, surrounded by friends from Earth and Zetharia. They presented him with a crystalline vial containing pure Zivixian nectar. "Drink and become one of us," the eldest council member intoned. Jake raised the vial. "To friendship across the stars." He drank, feeling the familiar burn. The crowd cheered. Humans and Zetharians celebrated together, sharing food and drink that once would have been deadly. As the party continued, Jake reflected on how far they'd come. A moment of diplomatic crisis had become the foundation for the strongest alliance in the galaxy. Fear had transformed into friendship. Poison had become medicine. "Not bad for a spilled drink," he murmured to himself, watching the two species mingle freely under the alien stars. 5 years had passed since Jake Harrison first drank Zivixian nectar. He sat in his office on Zetharia Prime, now serving as the permanent human Zetharian cultural ambassador. Through his window, he could see the thriving metropolis that had grown around the research facility. Lisa knocked on his door. "Ready for the anniversary celebration?" Jake smiled. "Can you believe it's been 5 years?" They walked together to the grand hall where it all began. The room was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Humans and Zetharians mingled freely, sharing drinks and stories. Chancellor Zalthor approached them, looking older but content. "Ambassador Harrison, my friend, tonight we celebrate more than an anniversary. We celebrate a new era." Jake nodded. "It's amazing what we've accomplished together. The medical breakthroughs had saved millions of lives. The poison guard had responded to disasters on dozens of worlds. Trade between Earth and Zetharia had made both civilizations prosper." During Zoe dinner, Jake found himself sitting next to a young human girl and a Zetharian boy. They were discussing their plans to attend the Joint Academy on Mars. "I want to be a xenobiologist," the girl said. "Like Dr. Chen. And I want to join the Poison Guard," the boy added. "To help people like Ambassador Harrison did." Jake felt a surge of pride. These children saw no barriers between their species, only possibilities. After dinner, Chancellor Zalthor called for attention. Friends, tonight we honor the one who changed everything. Ambassador Jake Harrison, please join me. Jake walked to the podium amid applause. The Chancellor continued. 5 years ago, this human did something impossible. He drank our deadliest poison and lived. But more importantly, he showed us that trust can overcome fear. Jake looked out at the crowd. He saw faces from dozens of species, all brought together by that one moment of risk. Thank you, Chancellor, Jake began. When I drank that nectar, I thought I was making a sacrifice for diplomacy. Instead, I gained a second family. He raised his glass of Zavixian nectar. This drink once symbolized death and isolation. Now it represents life and connection. That's what happens when we face our fears together. The crowd cheered. Jake noticed Dr. Vexelar and Amy Chen standing together, holding hands. They had married last year, the first human Zetharian couple. As the celebration continued, Jake stepped out onto the balcony. Lisa joined him along with Chancellor Zalthor. You know, Jake said, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if that server hadn't spilled my drink. Fate has a way of finding its path, the Chancellor replied. If not that night, then another. The universe wanted our people to meet properly. Lisa laughed. Leave it to Jake to make friends by drinking poison. They watched the celebration. Below, children played games that combined human and Zetharian traditions. Scientists discussed new research projects. Merchants planned expanded trade routes. What's next for you, Jake? Lisa asked. The Galactic Council wants to create more cultural exchange programs. They've asked me to help design them. Based on the Zetharian model? The Chancellor asked. Exactly, showing that our differences can be strengths, not weaknesses. As the night grew late, Jake reflected on his journey. From nervous diplomat to accidental hero to bridge between worlds, all because he chose trust over fear. The next morning, Jake stood in the spaceport, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Each one carried people eager to experience the miracle of human-Zetharian cooperation. A young diplomat approached him. Ambassador Harrison, I'm your new assistant. I requested this posting specifically. Welcome, Jake said. Ready to help build bridges? Yes, sir. Though I hope I don't have to drink any poison, Jake laughed. No poison required, just an open mind and a willingness to see friends where others see strangers. As they walked toward the embassy, Jake felt content. The galaxy had changed and he had played his part. Sometimes the greatest adventures began with the simplest choices, and sometimes the deadliest poison could become the sweetest drink when shared between friends.